many people hear the word designer, they think of something that's top of the line, hard to come by, and very, very expensive. Now, what if I told you that you could have that, but when it came to your children? Let's start off with some background knowledge. So in 1978, Louise Brown became known as the first test tube baby. She was born via in vitro fertilization. Little did we all know that the creation of Louise would open up the doors and opportunities for many other children. For example, a young girl by the name of Kyra was born to a mother who used methadone during her pregnancy to fight off her heroin addiction, and to a father who had a few mutations with his pancreas. Now, when she was born, she seemed to be doing perfectly fine, so the doctor sent her home. On her 1-month checkup, however, she came back and her blood sugar levels were so low that they were almost undetectable. Luckily, the Children's Mercy Center in which they were at practices whole gene sequencing. They were able to go in and begin her gene sequencing on Friday and have a diagnosis by Sunday. They did find that she had a mutation on the ABCC8 gene, which does indeed infect the pancreas. What they were able to do was go in and remove the 40% of her pancreas that is inoperable, and then replenish the 60%, which was healthy and was doing very well. After this, she was considered cured. She went on to have a lovely life and was perfectly healthy after that. Also, there is another young girl by the name of Alexis. Now, Alexis did not have the issue with herself personally, but her brother. Alexis's brother started having health issues very young in age. They then found out that he had an OTC mutation, which is a mutation on the OTC gene, which affects the way your body processes nitrogen. He became very ill and soon began having to take up to 100 pills a day just to live a normal life. She decided that she wanted to get her gene sequenced just to see if she did in fact have the mutation as well. Of course, once they came back, she did have the same mutation of the OTC. She then decided that she did not want to have children. Now, this is understandable, but the OTC mutation is an X-linked recessive trait, therefore meaning that it is a 50-50 chance that your child will be sick. If it was a boy, it was a 1 in 2. Also, if it's a girl, it was a 1 in 2, even though it was more common in males than females since it is X-linked recessive. This is when the morals start to play a higher role, and we kind of start to see the teeter-totter effect of, well, is this good or is this bad, us having this much knowledge. Furthering the morality, later on a few years, there is a woman named Amanda Kalinsky. Now, Amanda's family had suffered from GSS. Now, what this is an early onset of dementia, meaning that your dementia would hit you way earlier in life than usual, and you would have to suffer for longer. Now, she did not want that for her children, so she got her own gene sequenced and found out that she was indeed a carrier for the GSS mutation. So what she decided was that she did not want to have any children at first, but once being with her husband for a few years, she decided, maybe I do want to have children. So, luckily, thanks to Louise Brown, they were able to also have a child. Now, what they did was they went down to a fertility clinic where she was then able to have multiple eggs produced at one time. Now, the eggs were taken and they were inseminated by her husband, by a lab scientist, with her husband's sperm. And they were able to sequence the genes for these 4 children that she could possibly have and found the healthy and the non-healthy. So the healthy baby was then set into her uterus, and then the unhealthy were discarded. Now, talking about this sounds awful. You're discarding human life. But then again, the question also has to come up of when does life really start, and that's not what this is about. This is about creating superhumans. Now, moving on. Not only has this become such a fad in America, but it has also made its way all the way to China, where researchers such as Gang Bao have started using newer ways of sequencing genes and finding mutations or diseases in genes. So the old way was the zinc finger nuclease, and now the new way is the CRISPR, or the Cas9 system. Now, with these new inventions and taking leaps forward in the scientific world, we are now beginning to see maybe an even more negative effect of being able to sequence these genes and change mutations or get rid of them. So many of the children in Gang Bao's studies have been found that even though the mutations are fixed, so to speak, they are not completely gone and sometimes can re-arise after their gestation period or after birth. And also, many of the parents are not understanding that once a child is born, you usually cannot fix their gene sequence. It's set in stone after gestation period. So many of these parents do indeed end up with unhealthy children, which isn't the worst thing on the planet, but since they are wanting to have a healthy child, once they find out that they can't, it is really disappointing for them. Now, not all of this is bad. Yes, the morality factor is very questionable, and we have to continue to ask ourselves, when does it become too much? When does just looking for mutagens or mutations on a gene sequence become only wanting a child who is going to be the most intelligent in their class, or only wanting to have a girl, or only wanting to have a boy? Also, when does it take to step into materialistic items, almost as we take with our own clothing? I would only want to have a child that's 6'2", just as I would only want to have a child that, or only have a shirt that's pink. That's not fair. I personally would want a child that is healthy, and I would not care what they looked like. Now, saying that, yes, it would be nice to know if my child was going to have a disease, and it would be nice to know if it was fixable, if it was 100% preventable, then yes, I probably would go through with this. I would not suggest, however, somebody doing a gene sequencing just because they want a child who has the opportunity to be a future supermodel with green eyes and a structured jawline with beautiful hair and beautiful skin. That's not what life is about. However, since the positives are creeping up, let me go ahead and state some of those. So most of them are, there have been many abortions that have been avoided just because parents now know what they carry and now know what they are exposing their unborn children to. Also, many diseases have been avoided. Like I said, if that was an option, I of course would love to be able to prevent my child from having any illness in this world. Also, one of the most important ones is stem cells. Now, we all know stem cells have become this whole rage, and they are very important, of course. So what they can do now is take the stem cells from a younger sibling and give them to the older sibling if the older sibling is sick. And what this does is it helps them to create new stem cells, and it helps to get rid of the mutated cells. So this helps in anemia cases where you have an altered red blood cell. It helps to replenish that and to regrow brand new healthy cells, which is great. This could actually help so much in what has become almost an epidemic. You hear about it all the time. Now, in regards to the Gattaca movie, I do believe we are making our way to that. I hope that our world does not get to the point where we feel like we need to encompass somebody else's whole DNA sequence in order to become successful or in order to make something of ourselves, because then that's technically not yourself. Yourself is what you are born with and who you are. Also, as a parent, I hope that it does not come to the point where you feel like your child needs to have a whole new set of DNA. That to me is mind-blowing. You should be proud of what you are able to give to your child, and you should be proud to just have a healthy child who is able to go and progress naturally in life and is able to work with whatever is given to them. So just the next time I ask, when you hear the word designer, make sure you keep it about your handbags and not your children.